Polly Pocket. A very special series about a young girl with her special locket turned small. Polly Pocket is known to be an interesting reboot from Mattel Creations, of course with Wildbrain. And given how Polly Pocket did have quite a history, there is something that I have been questioning here about Polly herself and how it brings to some hints on how it is possible for Polly Pocket supposedly originally going to be on one of these channels. For starters, let's go back to 2006. Polly World premiered on that day on November 12th, 2006, and it aired on Nickelodeon, 2 days before it got released on DVD. And yes, this was the feature-length film of Polly Pocket itself, while the rest were supposedly specials. And yes, Polly World originally aired on Nickelodeon. I guess that led to the fact that Nickelodeon also had a fair history of female-aimed Mattel films, most notably the Barbie ones. They also had Ever After High and Monster High specials that aired on the channel as well. Given how Barbie as Rapunzel, yeah, that is shown right there. They did it up until Video Game Hero, which the movies then decided to be moved to Netflix. And yes, it's the Polly World. It's the same movie that literally has popsicle product placement. I am not kidding. They actually have that in the movie. Polly Pocket 2018 started its access on Hulu with Season 1, and then it moved to Netflix with Seasons 2 and onwards, though Polly Pocket was given a TVY rating instead of a TVY 7 rating, which is quite strange. Though then again, Polly Pocket did air on Family Junior, though Family Junior didn't really feel like a preschool network in later years. It felt more like a generic kids network like Universal Kids. There were so many placements of Polly Pocket on Nickelodeon as a sponsor to the channel. It was sponsored on the 2017 rebrand, and it's currently sponsored with the Martin Splat logo, and might still keep going. It just makes me feel about this. Was Polly Pocket originally going to air on Nickelodeon in terms of linear TV? Of course, there is also the fact that Shay Fontana, the former showrunner of Polly Pocket, is currently showrunning the Monster High reboot. And that it comes to feel about this. With the Monster High reboot, especially how Monster High specials aired on Nickelodeon before, Polly World aired on Nickelodeon, and it might have led to a key that Polly Pocket 2018 was originally going to be on that channel. In fact, there was the premiere date of The Loud House, the last Thanksgiving, and that was advertised. It was The Loud House, and it was when it was big. There was a special preview in the middle of that episode of The Loud House / the Casa Grandes. I do know it's still big, but compared to what Nickelodeon is doing with its recent business practices, I'm not sure at this point. But anyway, when it comes to that preview, they aired during it. And yes, and guess what? They actually advertised Polly Pocket on Nickelodeon during commercial breaks, being that first look during. Anyway, This was the clip that was shown in the middle of a loudest Thanksgiving. This was a clip from Bumpy Ride. Bumpy Ride episode 3 of season 1. Or season 2 if Tiny Power is a 1 hour special. Though it did have part 1 and part 2, so I'm counting it as episode 3. Now, they did feature it on a generic Mattel thing. It said, this video clip was sponsored by Polly Pockets. But it just feels like Nickelodeon, it was going to be on Nickelodeon. That was my headcanon and my prediction that it would have been on Nickelodeon instead of Universal Kids in terms of linear TV airings. Though, if Polly Pockets were to ended up on Nickelodeon, then the episode, it wouldn't last that long on Nickelodeon, or it would be lucky to finish its entire season, as later seasons would be on Nick Jr. Though with Family Jr., they have exclusive episodes, premieres there, and Family Jr., they have been going less preschool friendly and more of a generic kids network. They got the CGI Tara Duncan reboot. That brings Mia and Me vibes here. Overall, I think this is my prediction of DHX Media my prediction of DHX Media supposedly going to have Polly Pocket on Nickelodeon, but they decided not to air it. But then again, DHX Media did have some content on Nickelodeon before in terms of acquisition. Hello, Cuckoo Harajuku. And it brings me, from my perspective, to think that DHX Media would probably... Okay, here's how it goes. In terms of my prediction, if DHX Media was originally going to have Polly Pocket 2018 on Nickelodeon, but decided not to. Also, I'll honestly take Nick Jr. over Universal Kids, because at least that actually has more households. But here is how my prediction will go. Okay, I think after DHX Media saw the poor treatment of Cuckoo Harajuku on its distribution on Nickelodeon being booted off to Nick Jr., I think they wanted to have Polly Pocket to air on Nickelodeon. But due to the treatment, despite getting good treatment on Nick Jr., yet after season 2, show got removed, and then the website got removed when season 3 was announced. It makes me feel that Polly Pocket was originally going to be on Nickelodeon, but I guess it went the Glitter Force treatment. They rejected it. They might have rejected the series, or that DHX Media saw that treatment and said, oh yeah, I guess we can't have Polly Pocket on Nickelodeon after all. So I guess we can put like a preview on it with Mattel and maybe put on a Loud House episode. That can work. And Nickelodeon would say, alright, sounds good to me. So that is probably how I would think on what DHX Media was originally going to have Polly Pocket on Nickelodeon, but they decided not to, so it went to Hulu, and in terms of linear runs, Universal Kids instead, even though it's currently on Kids Streets. Overall, that's what I think about what would be the thing there. So many hints. Especially the fact that Polly Pocket is currently available on Paramount Plus, though that was due to Wildbrain's deal when it used to be CBS All Access. Anyway, guys, this is Kawaii Life Antonio, signing off. Peace. Tiny Power.